Hi, my name's Nick May and I'm the director of NPO CATNIP. We're a small rescue and rehoming shelter in northern Kyushu in Japan. Now this is the director's report for our annual general meeting held on the 20th of February. The cat you can see there on the right is called Lady Grey, and she was pulled in from one of our TNR sites. Okay, so this is going to cover what we did in 2021 and the plans we have for 2022. And the cat you can see there is called Tai, and that's her sister So. Now these came from an island of Iki. They were found by a foreigner out there, and we took them off the foreigner. It's always difficult to remember names with animals. We have so many of them. So yeah, we think of them as Iki Tai and Iki So. Okay, so what we did in 2021, well, we rehomed 27 cats. That's up from 14 the previous year. The cat you can see on the right there is little Dip, who was found not too far from our shelter actually by somebody, left to die, and was brought in with another kitten who may or may not be a sibling, we're not sure. But they've both been rehomed now. Okay, we rescued 34 cats. That's up from 15 in 2020. Now, the cat you can see on the right there is called Ting. She was a rescue from kind of a country park. It's a car park deep in the countryside in Shimonoseki. She was covered in fleas and ticks as well, which can be dangerous in Japan, the ticks, because they can carry diseases that affect humans. So she was a poor little thing. She'd been abandoned there by somebody, quite disgraceful. But we rescued her and we've rehomed her. TNR. Now we did 36 TNR cats, a lot of them towards the end of last year, mostly females, and that's up from 7 the previous year. So there's 3 little ladies waiting to be released. Now, when we do TNR, we tend to do it by area. So on our website, we create an area name. Let's go into this one here. And the cats that we've done in that area, with that particular cat feeder or cat group, all go on this page. And as you can see here, the status of the cats is written there, awaiting op or recovering, and so on. And obviously this is available in Japanese and through the iPhone, the smartphone site. And that means the cat feeders, they feel they have ownership of these cats that they're rehoming, that we're TNRing for them. They can see the status of the cat, and of course we also put a release video as well here, so that it's absolutely clear. There we go. That cat was released and the date it was released, and so on and so on and so on. Now that's the Japanese side, and of course it's available in English. Now they can then send this link off to friends and so on, and it's absolutely clear that they have done this. So that seems to work very well. Okay, so since we started, we have rehomed 78 animals and we have TNR'd 93 cats. Rehoming, when people tell you there how many animals they've rehomed, you want to know to what standard. Now, we visit all homes. We visit the home twice. Once at the start of a trial and once at the end of a trial, and the trial period is usually 3 weeks and may be extended if there are other cats in the house. As for TNR, we don't tend to do large amounts of TNR, like in markets and so on, lots of cats at one time. It tends to be 3 or 4 cats maximum, usually 1 or 2, because they're quite difficult to catch. They tend to be in suburban areas. A new thing that we started in 2021 is long-term fostering. Now this is all about getting cats into the hands of older people, and people who they want a cat in the semi-long term but they can't commit to it permanently. For example, a foreigner who's living in Japan for 2 or 3 years, and they'd like to help, but emotionally they just can't cope with cats coming and going, of a standard fostering scenario. So we have various cats who are FIV, or they might be an older cat, And with those cats, it's quite difficult to know what to do with them, because rehoming them is extraordinarily difficult sometimes, and if they stay sort of at the shelter, they don't have much of a life, and they're sort of blocking the space for other cats who we can come in, who we can rehome. Now, elderly people, they may be worried that they're going to become incapacitated as they go sort of from 70 to 80 to 85 and so on. And that will put them off keeping a cat, even though having a cat is possibly the single biggest thing that will improve their quality of life for them. So, long-term fostering. Now, in this scenario, they foster the cat, but there's no expectation that it's going to come back on our side until it's necessary. But if they go into hospital or whatever, we will just remove the cat instantly with no questions asked. And that seems to be working quite well. We've just started it. A similar thing is supported rehoming. Again, older people, and Catnip will step in an emergency. Now, it's always the question, what's in it for the cat? Because the cat is the client. But with both of these programs, we were hoping that it will benefit the cats, and that we can get cats into home type situations, possibly long term, it wouldn't otherwise be possible. Okay, people. Fosterers. We had 10 fosterers last year, and 7 are currently fostering cats, but some of them are just finishing up their fostering because they're leaving Japan. And an issue is that there's still immigration restrictions in Japan, so they're not being replaced with new foreigners who are here to do masters and so on, who would typically take over fostering duties. So we need more fosterers. So current situation is we have 19 cats in the shelter, 7 cats are being fostered, and we have 3 cats currently in our TNR room. 2 will be done and released quite soon. 1 is there for a couple of weeks because he had some kind of medical condition, and the vet wants to see how he improves before she tries to neuter him, because he wasn't responding well to anaesthetic. So that's 29 cats in Catnip's care. Okay, and the cat you can see on the right there is Eri. Now, she's from Kitakyushu. She was a street cat. Somebody rescued her, but she didn't get on with the other street cat the person had, so she came down here to us. Okay, let's move on to money. Now, in 2021, it cost 5,000 yen per day to run Catnip. That's £32 a day, or $44 per day. No one is paid. We are a charity, and therefore we have to produce accounts, quite strict accounts. So our income was 1,871,000 yen. That's about £12,000 or $16,000. And our outgoings were very slightly higher. Now the vet fees were 1,288,000 yen. I'll talk about vet fees in a moment. We made a loss of 15,000 yen, which is about $130, or what, £80 or so. So we don't have a cat on this page, we have a black hole, but it's a very small black hole, far smaller than last year, so yes, I'm relieved. So this is just breaking down that money, comparing it with the previous year. So 2021 was 1.8 million, the previous year was 0.8 million. However, it was only an 8-month year because we had to change our financial year so that we ended up doing all our admin in January and February, not during kitten season later in the year. So if we compare it on a pro rata basis, then probably 2020 would have been about 1.2 million, and 2021 was about 1.8, 1.9 million. Where does the money go? Well, as you can see, most of it goes to on our vet and medical fees. Now, our vets are extremely helpful and they do a great deal of work for us. Nevertheless, there are medical costs. So yeah, about 68% of our budget. Whoops, we can't quite see that. Okay. 68% of our budget goes on medical. It's rather hidden behind the picture there, unfortunately. That should say 68%. And transportation is a further 3%. So in total, 71% of our costs are getting animals to the vet. Okay, trap, neuter, return. There's another little cat from our Chayama site. This basically consumes 13% of our budget. Now, the vet costs I showed you earlier, obviously TNR vet costs are included in that, so this isn't an additional 13%. So 11% is the actual medical costs, and transportation is 2%. There's a lot of transportation with TNR because you have to go and catch the animal, bring it back, take it to the vet, pick it up from the vet, and then take it to release it after 3 or 4 days. So 13% of our budget at 4 main sites. And this is one of our little TNR stations. Typically we'll have the cat for a few days, particularly a female cat for recovery, and that's the kind of place that we keep them. We can manage 4 easily enough, 6 if we need to. After that we have to start sort of making special arrangements for TNR cats. And this little lady was a rescue, a TNR rescue, Lady Grey. Now she's the cat you saw on the very start of this presentation. Where we see an attractive cat that we think can be rehomed, particularly if it's a female, we will try and take them in from TNR, but we have to limit that just because rehoming is difficult and expensive. Okay, some random facts. We did 113 vet visits. That's 66 to the main vet and 47 to the TNR clinic. Now with TNR, obviously you've got to do 2 trips to pick the cat up afterwards, and that is 2,250 kilometres of driving, and that's 180 hours of driving just visiting the vet, in addition to all the other stuff that we do. Another random fact, 4 cats cost more than 100,000 yen each in medical fees after rescue. Pix, Tig, Bon and Silver. Now, this little thing is Bon. She came to us with a broken leg and various other medical issues. And yes, she was an expensive lady overall. But she's now been rehomed. She recovered fine and she's been rehomed and she's doing very well. Tig doesn't appear to have much in the way of kidneys. They're very atrophied. Her blood work is appalling. Her mouth was in terrible condition. She'd lost a lot of teeth. She's FIV+. Now, she's a really nice little cat and she has a very good quality of life if we can get, control the pain and so on from the mouth. So we had her teeth removed and the mouth healed up fine, so that's no problem anymore. She's on a special diet. Her blood work looks pretty terrible overall, but she's a very happy little cat. She's not in any discomfort. She has a really good quality of life. So we guess we're kind of in a hospice situation with her, and ultimately we'll have to, do the merciful thing. But right now there's no reason to. She's a nice little thing. So she just stays with us here at the shelter. We can't have too many cats like that, of course, because if we do, we've given into sentiment and there's a cats who we're not helping. On the other hand, if we don't have any cats like this at all, then we've lost our soul and we don't want to go that way either. Pix was another expensive little girl. Now, she'd been starved. She weighed 1.7 kilograms, which is very low for a, 4 or 5 year old cat. Terrible condition, wouldn't eat when she came in. Her eyes were yellow, she had jaundice and so on from not eating because the kidneys shut down. The liver shuts down, doesn't it? Not the kidneys. But yeah, she's recovered fine. We had quite a torrid time with her, of sort of forcing food into her. Well, it gets very messy and uncomfortable and so on. But she's a nice little girl. She's asleep at my feet right now. She may be rehomable. We want to wait a few months and then check her blood again. But potentially, we've fixed up all her medical issues, and she's a really nice little thing. We suspect that that the owner died, and possibly the next generation weren't keen on keeping her. We're not sure. Anyway. Okay, other activities. Now we do a lot of sort of invisible activities that take a lot of time. We lend traps to people, of course, so they can do TNR. We give a lot of advice, usually by email, lots of backwards and forwards to help other people. We occasionally transfer animals. If you look on the right side, this cat is called Looney, and Looney had been rescued by a young woman from the Philippines who was an agricultural intern. And it was a slightly strange situation. I don't think internet access was possible from where she was and so on. Goodness knows. But she was adamant that she wanted to rescue this cat who she'd had as a little kitten. She'd taken it, basically it was going to die and be eaten by crows, and I suspect its siblings probably did go that way, because animal control in the countryside, well, with kittens it seems to rely on the predations of crows rather than anything else, I'm sorry to say. So she was determined that this cat would be rescued. We offered to take it off her, but I mean, there's no reason why she should trust us. I got the impression that perhaps not everybody around her had always told her the complete truth about everything, and so that was fair enough. She was determined she would save this animal, and I have to admire that. So we tried to help her take it back to the Philippines, where we checked obviously that that was viable in the Philippines, that there were people there and so on, she had family, and that the cat would be looked after. But it turns out it wasn't really possible because of COVID. So in the end we took it off her and we transferred it to a friend of hers in Tokyo, and it will go to the Philippines long term when COVID calms down, we hope. But the cat's in great condition and is very happy. Okay, and the last stuff we do is confidential stuff, stuff that we just can't really talk about on the web. Things happen in people's lives, and you know, we go in and we help them with their animals. So let's look at the shelter where we keep the cats. Now this is still taking shape. We now have 4 basic rooms. There's still much work to be done. We have space, but we need more spaces. For example, we need a quarantine room rather than just a quarantine space. Those kind of things. Sorry, if you can hear snoring in the background, that's Pix, the cat I showed you earlier, who has started snoring. So this is where the shelter is and where I live, out in the countryside. So the shelter is in a barn that I have on my property. And this is what it looked like last year. Now, obviously we weren't keeping cats in it at that point. This is rice straw, and it is an earth wall building, earth on a bamboo lattice. So we cleared it out and put a floor in and plastered the walls. Now we've since put windows in, a couple of windows, one on either side, and done a whole lot of other stuff. I don't actually have pictures of that. I'll make that as a separate video and put that online. And that's the far end of that room, just a mesh wall to keep cats this side, and then we can divide up on this side as we need to. And that's one of the 4 rooms I was mentioning. And this is Heloisa Flores, who came up to help us for a day as we put floor in the far end of that building. Okay, so at the last annual general meeting I mentioned some future plans, which are now in the past, so I should talk about them. One plan was to increase income. Another plan was to improve facilities, and basically we needed to do crowdfunding, but we didn't want to start doing crowdfunding immediately because it's COVID and I don't want to ask people to put their hands in their pockets to donate for cats when they may be very short of money themselves. So we're going to wait until after COVID before we start to do that. And another issue we had was Japanese language support. Now, we're in Japan, I speak some Japanese of course, but my reading and writing is not all it should be. And if you're dealing with Japanese people, it really, well, a certain basic level is expected. And the problem is the person who is doing a lot of this work is my wife. And as we expand, I need to make sure that we expand without increasing the workload onto her. Okay, so how did that go? Well, before we can expand, we need to get our information system sorted out. It's absolutely critical. The information system is to handle people, and it's to handle animals, and it's to handle supporters as well. We need to make sure that we've got the medical side sorted out of animals, we're keeping medical records, and so on, and so on, and so on. All of those things are a tremendous issue. So we need to have a unified information system to handle that. And that is what I have been building. By building, I write software, bits of software, so I've been coding this up. It's not complete, there's an awful lot that's missing from it, but it's about 75% complete. And let's just have a little look at it. Let's get us to the right place. There we go. Okay, so there. So this is what it looks like. This is the interface for it. And this is what it looks like on an iPhone, because it's absolutely vital that I can run Catnip from a phone. So I can be out and about and I still have access to all the information that we need. Okay, so let's have a little look at that. This shows all the cats currently at Catnip. This shows all the cats currently physically on site. Do we have cats with vaccinations due? Well, not in the next 30 days. But those are the cats with vaccinations due in the next 180 days. Do we have cats who need to see the vet at any point? Yes, this cat does. She has to go to the vet on the 14th of March for a blood test. Okay, let's move back to the browser interface, but it's exactly the same interface. Let's pull my browser window down where I can see it. There we go. Okay, so let's look at a test cat. Because obviously there's private information in here, and I don't want to show it to you. Okay, so this is a test cat, and these are all the medical notes associated with this cat, what happened and when it happened. In a future iteration of this database, I'll be able to click on there and see the note, and if there is anything produced by the vet, an invoice or a list of procedures that have taken place, or a vaccination certificate and so on, then this will be shown to me when I click on it. So all the information will be gathered for that animal. Now let's look at the movements of the animal. Now I've created some test users, continental philosophers, so Descartes and Kant. Now these are names which I know don't belong to a real person. And as you can see, the full movements of this cat. It's come in from Nick May to Catnip. It's gone out to be fostered with René Descartes. René Descartes has brought it back to us a little later, and it's gone to the vet overnight. And then it's come back from the vet on that date, and then it's gone on trial to somebody for possible rehoming, Immanuel Kant, and it's been adopted on that date. So we have all the dates in there as well, and we can put notes as well in there as to anything that we need to store. Okay, so now let's click on one of these, and this is the power of this system, that on the right side you have animals, and on the left side you have people. Now it's all live data in here, so I want to be a little bit careful about what I show you. So let's go to René Descartes. There we go. So there is René Descartes. Now there's a lot of cosmetic work that needs doing on here, but the basic information is available to us. If we look at his contact, then I'd be shown a link, a maps link to Google Maps, so that I can navigate straight to that person, not relevant here, and a phone number, and so on and so on and so on in their contact details. And in their animal details, their interaction with any of our animals is also listed. Now, if they had fostered 4 cats for us, then 4 cats would appear there. So this shows the date they had the cat, and the name of the cat, and a photo of the cat when it's not a test cat. And another thing that we store, now this is all fake data, this isn't real for this particular person, is their donations, the amount of their donation, how it came in, what it was for, and their total for the year. So that we can see who our donors are, we can make sure we say thank you at the right time, that's the most important thing, and we can see just general information that we need. And then we can output this at the end of the year to help towards our accounts system as well. And if they're a member, we can see that, and we can see when membership fees are due and support, and so on and so on and so on, who's an adopter, who's etc. So all the information I showed you on the cat side, we have the same system working on the people side as well. So this is linking people and money and animals and medical records of animals and notes about animals and movements and so on, all together in one interface which I can access through a smartphone. Not complete, but well, you can see the direction of travel that we have with it. Okay, another thing we've done is called online fostering. Now, online fostering is people don't actually interact with the cats, but they can support a cat by paying a small amount of money each month. You can online foster a cat for 1,000 yen a month, which is what, about $9, or 2,000 yen a month. So I'll just quickly have a little look at that. So that's the interface for it. Now this is a cat who is available for rehoming, and this is the record for the cat. And at the moment nobody's online fostering this cat. So if you click there, you'll go to About Online Fostering. I'll show you that in a moment. But I'll show you how to online foster, as it were. I mean, people fill out a web form. They say which cat they want to online foster, and so on, and the terms and so on. But let's do this to ongoing. We'll put there, and we'll update. Okay. And oops. Then when we reload that, there, this animal is being online fostered at 1,000 yen per month. So we'll go and have a look at the About Online Fostering page. We've got an FAQ and all of those kind of things. And there that cat is in the list. Now, you can online foster up to 2,000 yen per cat, because kind of that's what it costs us to keep a cat, basically. Somebody's taken a 1,000 yen slot, and there's another 1,000 yen slot available for them. And these cats are online fostered, and there's links to their Facebook and so on and so on. Because quite often if somebody brings us a cat and they want us to take it in, they're actually more than willing to pay a small monthly amount, and this sort of formalises it and makes it clear that they're supporting it. People don't have to use their own names if they don't want to, of course. They can use a pseudonym or just not do it at all. Now, this is the questionnaire that we have, and of course everything is in Japanese as well. Okay, so that is online fostering, and it produces a regular monthly income that we use to pay for cats. Okay, So future plans, how did we do? Increase income, yes. Online fostering. An information database system, yeah, that's about 75% okay. With that in place, we can then expand and start to ask people to become supporters, because I can manage all the additional work there without relying on my wife, and because we have a centralised database, we can ask other people to become involved with supporting us as we gather supporters, as it were. And another thing we wanted to do was make Catnip visitable. Now, we're still working on our buildings. As soon as we have other people on site, it raises a whole load of issues. So that's slightly on the back burner until COVID is out of the way. No extra work for Midori. That's going very well. Yes, the vets are happy to talk to me by machine translated email, because DeepL produces such good translations. We have very direct conversations, because if you're doing machine translation, it's best to avoid idiom and so on. But I'm sure that's slightly grating for them, but at the same time, everybody is very clear as to what is happening, and that isn't always the case in Japan when you're using good Japanese. Moving on to Instagram. So this is what our Instagram page looks like, and it was one of the things we wanted to do, increase our social media. So let's just look in the browser. There we go. Okay, so there's Instagram. And yeah, the lady who does it is Hui Lin, and she's done a very good job, I think. This is introducing TNR, and she's done loads and loads of stuff, rescues, and so on and so on and so on, and it's all pretty good. But in some ways, that is the problem. It is all a little bit too good, possibly. We need to manage people's expectations, and some people were looking at our Instagram feed and thinking we were a larger organisation than we actually are, and they thought we were a richer organisation than we actually are, and that we had more resources than we actually have. So the Instagram stuff that the volunteer has done would be fine for a larger organisation than we are, but we're not quite big enough yet to kind of merit it, I think. And expectation management is terribly, terribly important when people come to us. So we've kind of put it to one side right now. Another thing is that it was quite a lot of work for me to produce the materials for her to actually, knock together and put out there, the raw materials. And I was starting to be flaky about it. And if I'm flaky about something, it's best to stop doing it, because we just didn't have time, really. And I don't like doing something in a half-baked way. So that's sort of on the back burner for now, until I have more time, until we're a little bit bigger and stronger, and so on. So target for 2021, what we were aiming at, increase income, yeah, online fosterers, integrated database, yes, Catnip visitable, in progress, COVID. Okay, and the little cat on the right is Lady Grey, who you saw earlier looking terrified in a cage in the corner. And she's a beautiful little cat now, and is very happy, and is currently snuggled up with Pix, whilst we try to find a home for her, which I'm sure won't be too long, because she's a nice little cat. Target for 2022 end of year, what have we got planned now? So what we are aiming at is to launch a supporter system and to have a lot more people giving us money on an annual basis as a formal supporter. Getting the database system online and ready is a large part of that. Supported rehoming, expanding that, getting cats out to older people and so on, particularly cats which have medical issues or are FIV. Catnip visitable, yes, long term. A quarantine room and a kitten room, actually creating additional discrete spaces that are single purpose, and we keep them for that purpose, and we don't move them around and do other things in them, is also something that we want to do this year. So, thank you for your time. You can find us online. Here, we're in Facebook, we have a little bit on Instagram, but it's not being updated too regularly. And you can find us on the web, of course. And I'd just like to finish by thanking you for spending so much time to get to the end of this, to thank our members, and to thank our board members in particular, Vera and Yoriko. They do a lot of work for us. The volunteers and the people who've been involved with us and so on. I'm the face of Catnip, but that's in part because at least some of the ladies who are involved with Catnip refuse to have their face on a video unless I personally pay for 3 hours time of a makeup artist. So I'm just glad I'm a little boy and it doesn't matter what I look like. Okay, thank you very much indeed for your time. Bye bye.